The lawyers for Ghislaine Maxwell are calling for a new trial after two jurors revealed they were sexually abused as children. One of those jurors told Reuters he talked about his experience with other jurors during deliberations. And according to the New York Times, a second anonymous juror said they did the same. Maxwell was convicted of multiple sex trafficking and conspiracy charges in a federal courtroom just last week. Let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Cevallos. Danny, good morning. Always great to have you to walk us through these things. So I got a lot of questions here, but let's start with kind of some of the updates. Federal prosecutors are now requesting a hearing with one of these jurors, one of the two I just mentioned. What kind of information are they looking to get from them, and what happens next?
First, they're going to do something very simple. They're going to look at the juror questionnaire and see what it says. What was the question that they allegedly failed to answer accurately, or at worst, failed to answer honestly? Then the court's going to want to know, to what degree was this inadvertent? Was it in good faith? Or did the juror dishonestly answer the question? And that last word is the magic word. It's the key to the test in this jurisdiction, the Southern District of New York. There is a two-pronged test. First, the defense would have to show that the juror answered dishonestly. And second, even if the juror answered dishonestly, the defense has to show that had everybody known the truth, this juror would have been excused for cause based on that juror's bias.
Okay, so Danny, I'm happy you brought that up, because the first thing I thought of when I first heard this was, how did this happen? Because the juror selection process is intense and includes these questionnaires that try to account for things like this and try to make sure that they don't happen. So this juror told Reuters he, quote, flew through those questions. And now we know it included a question that said, quote, have you or a friend or family member ever been the victim of sexual harassment, sexual abuse, or sexual assault? Now, that juror told Reuters that he didn't recall that question on that form or being asked about it during follow-up questioning. So what do you make of this as somebody who's, been in a courtroom many times before? I mean, does it seem possible that he doesn't remember it? What would your questions be here? And what kind of trouble could he be in?
This is going to lead inexorably to one of my favorite moments in the law. It's a recurring moment where someone has to testify or admit that they sign or fill out forms without reading the question. And the reality is we all do it sometimes, me too, especially when I'm clicking. But at some point, this juror is going to have to say, yes, I looked at this. Yes, that's my handwriting. Yes, that's my signature. And no, I didn't read it before I filled it out. So the judge in this case is going to have to determine whether that was a dishonest answer. And even then, it's still a long shot. Savannah, I can count the number of times this challenge has succeeded that I know of on one hand, and I could probably still do it if that hand had one finger. That's how rare this challenge will be.
Wow. I can't remember what it was for now, but just yesterday I checked something online. I accept the terms and conditions, I'm sorry to say, but this seems like one of those times where you don't do that. You got to actually read them. Okay, Danny, let's not talk about what this could mean. I mean, this was obviously a hugely high-profile case. Ghislaine Maxwell, the relation to Jeffrey Epstein here. We thought that, we sort of had a decision here in the answers. Could this juror's interviews, could this juror not reading that question, could this juror discussing this mean we see a whole new trial here? I mean, does that give Maxwell's team enough ammunition that what we think right now is the verdict in this case may change if we have to do this all over again?
In theory, it could, but statistically, it is a long shot. The law puts the thumb on the scale heavily against the defendant in situations like this, because as the Supreme Court has recognized, we want finality in jury verdicts. And look, admittedly, I'm a defense attorney. I'll do whatever I can to try and challenge a verdict against my client. So, the defense team has their duty to challenge this. But statistically, it's just not likely to succeed because, at least according to the test in this jurisdiction, it can't be an accidental answer. It can't be I misunderstood the question. It's got to be, number one, that the juror was concealing something intentionally, and they were concealing something that would have been directly relevant to this case. At least at first glance, some of those elements appear to be present, but it's still an uphill climb.
All right, Danny Cevallos, some fascinating stuff there. Thank you so much. And we know you will keep an eye on that. Good to see you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.